Welcome to the IREL podcast. Are you sick and tired of real estate gurus pitching their next free construction deal, only to find out years later they were completely wrong? Worried the next overseas conference you spend thousands to attend will only be used to sell overpriced lots in deserted developments? Join thousands of other international real estate seekers who are looking for their place in paradise without the sales pitch. Straight from your host, Taylor White.
Hey, podcast listener. Welcome to the Overseas Property Insider Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor White. I am proud to say this episode is brought to your earbuds, courtesy of my friends at Airbnb. Moments from now, you'll be hearing from an Airbnb insider that will reveal exactly how he is maximizing his pad for profit and details exactly how you can do it too. If you're looking to travel the globe, staying at unique spaces in over 192 countries, or becoming a host and renting out your spare bedroom or spare villa, then this episode is just for you. And as a special bonus, you can get up to $100 in absolutely free credits just for being a listener of this podcast. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/Airbnb and claim your $100 right now. I'm really excited to niche down the vacation rental industry when I sit down and speak with Jasper Rivers, who wrote the awesome book, Get Paid for Your Pad, which is an amazing resource on how you can learn how to rent out your home on the vacation rental giant Airbnb. Jasper and I will delve deeper into such topics as pricing strategies that will not only get you fully booked, but also at prices higher than you ever thought possible. Reveals one of the biggest unknown secrets about taking pictures, and it has to do with Airbnb coming out to your house to take them completely free. Uncovers what he has learned from the trenches about Airbnb search rankings and little known tips and strategies you can use to skyrocket your own listings and much more. Instead of telling you more, let's join Jasper from the Get Paid for Your Pad headquarters from Amsterdam. Jasper, what's going on? It's Taylor White. I'm excited to have you on the podcast today, straight from the Get Paid for Your Pad headquarters, so we can get to know you personally. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hey, Taylor. I'm very excited to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
So I've listed my apartment back in Amsterdam on Airbnb about 2 years ago, and I've been having such a blast and been making such good income out of it that I recently decided to write a book about it, which is going to come out in about 1 month time.
Well, Jasper, I couldn't wait to have you on regarding your brand new book coming out, I think about 25 or 26 days. I can see the countdown on your website. It's called Get Paid for Your Pad, and it's about how to maximize profit for your Airbnb listing. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. When I started with my listing, I wasn't getting very much traction in the beginning, and that's because to get a lot of bookings, you need to build a reputation. And once I realized that, I really dug into all the material I could find about how to be a host on Airbnb, because I had no experience with it. And I found out so many good things, and I made so many improvements, and I was just amazed by how much my income shot up. And that's what inspired me to write a book about it, because I saw so many other hosts who were struggling as well. And I figured this would be a great way to help them do the same thing.
So Jasper, we are really going to niche down and just focus on your tips and strategies for Airbnb, which is an awesome resource to find a place to stay, I think in 192 countries worldwide. But first off, Jasper, what's Airbnb for those that don't know?
Airbnb is a platform where travelers can find hosts. And a host could be really anyone who owns an apartment or is renting an apartment or a room or any sort of space, really. So anyone in the world could create a listing on Airbnb and start hosting people and make some extra side income or even a full income out of it.
And then Jasper, I'm just curious, why is your focus on Airbnb and not some other major vacation rental sites like HomeAway or VRBO?
That's a really good question, Taylor. I actually started out listing my apartment on two sites, on Airbnb and Wimdu. And I did look into some other sites, but Airbnb was the one that I felt most comfortable with. And I thought that the user experience on Airbnb was the best out of all the other sites. And after I'd been hosting for a while, I realized that reputation is the most important thing when you're listing a space on a website. So instead of dividing my bookings between the two websites and having a mediocre reputation on both, I realized that it was more profitable to focus on one website and to create a really good reputation. It's like they say, it's better to be a big fish in a small pond than to be a medium fish in a big pond.
That's so true. And I've actually used Airbnb on several trips throughout Latin America. So I'm a big fan of Airbnb. And I know that we've talked about this a little bit, Jasper, but we're going to hit on around 7 awesome points from your book that I know will really resonate well with people listening right now. And Jasper, why don't we talk more about our first point, which is the best ways to communicate with guests?
Absolutely. This is one of the most important things that will make your Airbnb business a success. If you ask any traveler what his main concern would be when booking an Airbnb apartment, it is that they worry that the host is not going to be on top of things. They worry that they're going to be in front of a closed door, or if there's any issues, that the host will not help them out. And this is the biggest difference between renting somebody's apartment and staying in a hotel. If you stay in a hotel, you're guaranteed to be welcomed. There's a reception. There's people who will help you out if there's any issues come up. So how do you reassure the guest that you're on top of things and that you will make sure that your guests will have a good experience? Well, this starts by communication. And it really starts the moment the guest makes the booking. So there's 3 things that I want to bring up. Number 1, communicate often. As soon as the guests make a booking, send them a welcome email. Let them know that you're going to make sure that the guest will have an awesome experience. Send him some information. Second thing is always respond quickly. Whenever your guest sends you a message, question, or an email, respond immediately. The third thing is it's always good to ask some questions. I always ask my guests, hey, what time do you expect to arrive in my city? Are you flying in by plane or are you taking the train? The more information you have of your guest, the better you are able to make sure the guest is properly welcomed. And by doing this, the guest will realize that you're on top of things and he will feel comfortable arriving in a city which may be, even on the other side of the world, a place that the guest will be very unfamiliar with. So these 3 things are very important to make sure that the guest will feel that you care and that you're on top of things.
And then Jasper, I'm curious, with Airbnb, when we communicate, is it just via their system or can you send emails outside the system? Can you have a Skype call? What are the best ways to speak with guests?
Good question. Before the booking is confirmed, the only way to communicate with the guest is on the Airbnb messaging platform.
Right.
But as soon as the booking has come through and is confirmed, you will get all the information that the guest provides to Airbnb. And I always make sure to give the guest plenty of options on how to contact me. I'll give them my email, I'll give them my telephone number, I'll give them my WhatsApp, I'll give them my Skype. And I'll let them know, hey, the best way to reach me is by email, but also feel free to use these other ways to contact me whenever there's any questions.
Got it. So until something is booked and paid for, it's done via their system. And then as soon as it's booked, then you get the communication channels of email or Skype or anything else to where you can speak with them outside of Airbnb.
That is correct.
Okay, cool. And then Jasper, for our second point, which is hugely important, of course, is a pricing strategy. Can you talk some more about a great pricing strategy that you might recommend?
Absolutely. Pricing is one of the more complicated things that are involved in creating your Airbnb listing and running your business. In general, what you want to do is you want to adjust your price to demand, because demand will not always be the same. First of all, I'm going to make 6 points here. The first point is, think about weekdays versus weekends. Is your property located in a business district, then you'll probably have a higher demand during the week. Versus if it's located in a touristy area, then you're most likely to have a higher demand in the weekends. Second point is, think about high season and low season. Every location in the world probably has a season where a lot of visitors visit your area and a season where not so many people visit. And the best way to find out is contact the local tourism board and see if they have any statistics on the amount of people visiting. Usually you can find some statistics for every single month. The third point I want to make is make sure to check out special dates. Some obvious ones are Christmas, New Year's, but also there could be a big conference in town that's going to raise demand. So make sure you Google for conferences and check out how many people visit that particular conference. Another really good way to find out about special dates is if you go to booking.com and you fill in some dates for your own city, it will show you the percentage of hotels that are booked. So that's another really good indication of when demand is, on what date demand is high and what date demand is low. As far as the pricing strategy, I recommend to start high when you're far away from the check-in date and gradually lower your price as you're getting closer to your check-in date. Having an empty house makes you zero. So basically any amount of money that you can make last minute is a bonus. And the way to figure out sort of the lowest price that you want to ask, think about how much does it cost you to have a guest stay in your house versus having it empty. You can think about electricity cost, gas, anything that will incur cost on your behalf. And you can also include a compensation for yourself. Last point I want to make, getting bookings is the main priority for new listings. So in order to build your reputation, you need to get bookings and you need to have reviews. You need to have guests. So initially, when you start out, I really recommend going really low on the price, especially last minute, and just make sure you get those people to stay at your house.
Jasper, I love those pricing strategies. And then, of course, we're talking about the property that you might list on Airbnb. So it's outside the cost. But correct me if I'm wrong, to list on Airbnb, there's no upfront listing fee, and then you pay a small percentage as the homeowner or the property manager if and when you rent something out. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct, Taylor. It's completely free to list your space on Airbnb, and you pay a 3% fee over the total booking amount to Airbnb.
So it's just 3%?
That's correct.
Wow, that's crazy. That's very, very low, actually.
It is. That's why one of the reasons I really like the Airbnb model.
And then, Jasper, since we're talking about pricing, which of course is money, how do you get paid if you're the homeowner or property manager that has a listing on Airbnb, and how does someone else pay?
When a guest makes a booking, he has to list his credit card details on the site, and he will pay the booking amount to Airbnb plus a 6 to 12% fee. Airbnb then holds the money, and the day after the guests actually check into your house, that's when you as a host will get paid.
Okay, cool. So do you know off the top of your head, do they allow credit cards? Is it just PayPal? Is it a combination of several ways that people can pay?
It's credit card only.
Credit card only.
Yes.
Okay, cool. So then, Jasper, I know it's very important in Airbnb to be able to rank high, and it's very, very simple. If you have a listing on Airbnb and no one can find it, then you're not going to have any clients. You're not going to make any money. So maybe talk some more about some search engine rankings on Airbnb, tips and strategies that you might want to share.
Absolutely. And this is a very important point. And you're absolutely correct in saying that reaching the first page of the search results will give an enormous boost to your ranking, just like getting on the first page in Google will give any website a huge boost. So there's 5 points that I want to mention that will help you raise in the Airbnb search rankings. First of all, it's the reviews and the ratings from your customers. If your customers give you great ratings and great reviews, this will play a major factor in the search results. Number two, it's the number of bookings. So even if the reviews aren't great, just the fact that people are booking your apartment helps in rising in the search ranks. A few other ones. Number three, the response time. This is something that's displayed on your profile. So if somebody sends you a message, Airbnb actually measures the time for you to respond, and it will display the average of that. So make sure you always respond as quickly as possible. The fourth thing is make sure you update your calendar often. This is another thing that Airbnb takes into account because they don't want people to make an inquiry just for you to let them know that you forgot to update your calendar and the apartment's not available for the dates. Last point I want to make is about trust. Trust is a big thing on Airbnb. And in order to build trust, you can add several verifications to your profile. You can get connected to Facebook, you can have your telephone number, your email verified, and you can also ask your friends to leave you some references. And this is important because it shows people that you're a real person and that you're trustable and that they can rely on you.
Jasper, that's crazy. You know more about Airbnb than anybody I've talked to yet. And I'm curious as far as the Airbnb search rankings. Is there a way, if you're a homeowner or a property manager, you put a listing on Airbnb to get ranked higher? Can you pay any money, or can you upgrade, or can you pay them a larger fee? Or is it just based on those tactics that you just talked about?
That's a really good question, Taylor. And one of the reasons I love Airbnb is that it's a very honest system. There's no way that you can pay Airbnb or engage in any sort of activity to fool the system.
Right.
All you can do is be the best host you can be. Get good reviews, respond quickly, be active, update your calendar, get references, get verified. Those are the things you need to do.
Crazy. That's good stuff. So if I was going to list something on Airbnb, it seems like to me to get high search rankings, especially at first, I might want to price it a little bit lower than I do down the line because I want people to contact me. I want to get things going. I want to get some more action on the listing. If I price it too high and no one contacts me, I can't verify anything, then I might drop in the ranking. So maybe at the start, just like you talked about, you might want to have a lower price. You might want to have great photos. You want to get some action on the listing to get people in to leave you reviews. So then over time, you can get higher rankings. Do you think that makes sense?
That makes a lot of sense. That's exactly what I recommend people to do when they're just starting out. It's all about the long term.
Right.
If you want to have a long-term viable Airbnb business, it makes a lot of sense to lower your prices, even if it costs you money in the short term. Even if you don't make any money in the first month or two, if you manage to build up that reputation, then it's going to pay off big time in the future.
And then Jasper, before we move on to point number 4, which will be a great listing and great photos, I'm just curious from yourself, what kind of property or properties have you personally listed on Airbnb?
I have a 2-bedroom apartment in a very popular neighborhood in Amsterdam that I've been renting out on Airbnb for almost 2 years.
Awesome. Okay. And then point number 4, Jasper, why don't we talk about composing a great listing? We talked about pricing strategy a little bit, and I know that we need to talk about adding great photos. And I checked out your listing that you have in Amsterdam, and you have awesome photos. So talk more about a great listing, which includes having great photos.
Absolutely. Photos is probably the most important thing when it comes to creating a good listing. It's the first thing that people will see when they search for your apartment. So there's There's 3 points I want to make about creating a good listing. The first one is the photos. Airbnb has an awesome service where you can get a professional Airbnb photographer to take pictures of your property for free. And I'm always amazed to see that not all hosts are taking advantage of this opportunity. So the first thing is make sure you get the Airbnb photographer to make some awesome pictures of your space. The second thing, make sure you include all relevant information in your description. People want to know all the details about your space. Often people stay in my apartment as a holiday, and maybe people only have 1 week out of the year. So they want it to be perfect. They do not want any surprises. They want to know what your apartment, the amenities, where it's located. They want to know about the neighborhood. They want to know everything. So make sure you inform your potential guests in your description. Last point I want to make sure to write in a descriptive way that enables the readers to experience a little bit of what it would be like to stay in your apartment. A lot of listings that I see are so factual. It's just a list of a number of facts of your apartment, and that doesn't entice people to want to stay at your place. So to give you an example, instead of, for example, saying my house has a balcony, you could say something like, after a great day of sightseeing in the beautiful city of Amsterdam, my balcony provides you with an amazing opportunity to have an afternoon drink and catch the last sun rays of the day. Now that sounds a lot better. And also make sure that if your apartment has a specific feature that's really unique or your apartment's best asset, make sure to mention that in the beginning of your description, because not everyone is going to read all the way down.
So Jasper, I wanted to highlight one thing that you said, and I just wanted to clarify. You said that Airbnb will actually take photos of your property. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
So Jasper, do they actually come out to the property to take pictures, or do you send them in and they make them look better?
Somebody will show up at your apartment, will bring professional equipment, and make awesome pictures of your apartment.
That's crazy.
It's a great service.
So why wouldn't everybody do that then?
That's a very good question. I think not everyone is aware of it.
Right. And do you know if do they have this just in specific large cities, do you know? Or do you know if they have it worldwide for the most part in like most major cities?
It's definitely available in most major cities.
Right.
It's not available everywhere, but I was just in Curacao, which is a very small island in the Caribbean, visiting a friend who I'm helping to start her Airbnb business. And she lives in this little town of less than 100,000 people. And even there, it was available. So I'm pretty sure that it's almost available everywhere.
Wow, that's crazy. And then Jasper, I wanted to follow up on something. You're talking about the great photos. Airbnb will come out to take those probably in most major cities. I was just curious, have you devised any businesses from your experience with Airbnb, maybe such as creative writing to help people with their listing, or some kind of other business that you might offer from your experience with Airbnb?
Absolutely. After launching my book, I'm planning to start a website, which I will call Airbnb Academy, where I'll be offering all sorts of services to hosts, whether it comes to helping out with the description, helping out with the complete listing, devising a custom-made pricing strategy, anything that's listed in the book, all the advice, I will be offering services.
Love it, Jasper. So why don't we hop on to our fifth point that we want to talk about? And I know this one is hugely important. One time I went to a property in Panama City, Panama, and it wasn't prepared. It wasn't ready to go for me. So why don't we hit on preparing your house for guests?
Absolutely. This is a very important point that a lot of hosts miss out on. I'm going to mention 6 things you can do to prepare your house for your guests. And the most important thing is it has to be absolutely spotless. People are used to staying in hotels, and hotels have professional cleaning staff who will make sure that the hotel rooms are are just perfectly clean. And this is what guests are used to, and this is what they expect. And the number one complaint in the hospitality business is for people to arrive at a place that's not clean. It's guaranteed to result in negative feedback from your guests. So the first thing I really want to emphasize, make sure you get a professional cleaner to clean your space. Don't economize on this. The second point is make sure to remove any unnecessary items. It's so nice to arrive in an apartment that is spacious, it's tidy, there's no personal stuff lying around. And I'm talking about clothes, I'm talking about maybe pictures, magazines, or anything that you think your guest is not going to need, just put it away. If you can store it in your house, that's fine. Or if you need to, you could even maybe store it at a friend's place or hire a little storage unit. Make sure your house is nice and tidy. Third point is go through your house and think about what your guests might appreciate that is not already there. And to give you one example, I never drink tea. So I didn't have a teapot. And I never thought about this until one of my guests told me about it. He told me, hey, I want to make some tea, but you don't have a teapot. And it's a silly little thing, but it could be very important to your guests. So go around your house and think about small items that you can add. And this is not going to be very expensive, but it could increase your guest experience a lot. The next thing I want to mention is you may need to make sure to have enough pillows, blankets, towels, etc. available for your guests. Especially, I used to live in my house by myself, so I didn't have 6 pillows. I didn't have 15 towels. I just had a few. But I was hosting groups of guests that would be composed of 4 or 5 people. So naturally, they needed to have more blankets, more towels, etc. So make sure not to economize on that. The fifth point I want to make is a very important one. The keys. Guests are going to get locked out and they are going to lose your keys at some point. So always make sure to provide them with various sets and also make some spare sets. Maybe give a spare set to your neighbor, maybe one to a friend or a family member, and make sure you have a few spare sets as well, because the last thing you want is for your guests to be locked out and you not being able to let them back in. Last point I want to mention is create a guidebook for your guests. And what I mean by guidebook is it's a document that contains all the information that your guests will need in your house, like how does the Wi-Fi work? How does your stove work? What about the central heating? What about the electricity? Any instructions that you can provide to your guests about your apartment. But not just that. Also, talk about your neighborhood. One of the reasons that people like staying at Airbnb places is the local information that they can get. Tell them your favorite bar. Tell them your favorite restaurant. Anything that you think your guests might enjoy in your neighborhood, let them know and provide them with this information in your guidebook. And the last thing you can add, think about what can guests do outside of your neighborhood. Let them know your favorite things to do in your city or even outside of your city. And all this information can be nicely crafted into a guidebook that you can send to your guests before they arrive, but you can also create a printed version and put it on the table in your apartment so that when guests arrive, they can pick it up, take a look, and they can get all the information that you want to provide. And I think this is a really important aspect, and I actually provide people that buy my book, I provide them with my personal guidebook as a bonus.
So Jasper, we've talked on 5 awesome points so far. We have 2 more to touch on, and our 6th one, no doubt, based on your system, you don't have any unhappy guests that stay at your place. But unfortunately, some people might come across guests that aren't always happy. So what are some tips or strategies that you can offer in dealing with unhappy guests?
Absolutely. The first thing that you want to do is you want to realize that your guest is the king. Take their feedback seriously, even if you think it's unreasonable. In the end, you as a host are responsible for creating a great guest experience. And if for whatever reason your guest is not happy, that is your problem. And you need to take it serious and, use that feedback to improve your apartment, to improve the experience of your future guests. Don't feel personally attacked. Your reputation is way more important than losing out on a couple $100 if you have to reimburse an unhappy guest. And if the guest does leave a bad review for you, it actually provides you with the opportunity to show that you really care as a host. Responding well to a bad review can, in my opinion, actually improve your listing, because you can, by responding in an appropriate way, by showing other guests that you're taking this feedback serious, you can just really show that you care and that you're a good host. So just to give you an example, imagine that you're looking at two different listings. And one listing has 50 5-star reviews. And then the other listing has also 50 5-star reviews, but it has maybe one or two mediocre or bad reviews. And you see the host responding to them in a good way, taking the feedback serious and showing that he cares. I actually might have a better impression of the second listing than the first one.
So Jasper, I wanted to hit on one final point, and then we're going to find out the best ways to follow and connect with you. But since we're talking about unhappy guests, of course, we're going to have happy guests as well. So what are some great strategies to getting great reviews? Not only people looking at the listing are going to see the great reviews, but also it sounds like, Jasper, that it's important for the search rankings. So what are some great ways to get reviews?
Well, the most important thing to get a great review is to be the best host that you can be. And this involves all the things that we talked about. But you really have to make sure that you show that you care about your guests. And this really starts with the first thing that we touched, the communication. If you make sure that your guest feels welcomed and comfortable when he arrives, you've already won half the battle. Because if you've shown to the guests that you are on top of things, they will be very forgiving if there's a minor issue. There will always be some minor issues. It's impossible to avoid any issues. There's the electricity could go down, or something could break, or something. The neighbors could make noise. There's always things that you can't really do much about. And if you show that you're doing everything you can to maximize your guest experience, your guest will be forgiving, and it won't show up in the reviews. The second thing that's really important, some people are new to Airbnb and they don't understand the review system that Airbnb uses. So to show the guest how it works, the best thing you can do is to leave a review for your guest immediately when you get the opportunity, which is a day after your guests check out. Your guests will see that you've left them a review, and that will remind them to leave a good review for you as well. Now, the last thing I'll mention is that if a guest does not leave you a review, and he has 14 days to do this, you can send him a friendly reminder. Just let him know, hey, I wrote a really good review for you. I appreciate that you were a good guest in my house, and it would really help me if you could leave some feedback so that future guests can make an informed decision about whether they want to stay in my apartment or not. Just let them know you really appreciate it. And if they still don't leave you one, maybe send another reminder just a few days before the deadline.
Hey, Jasper, I'm curious. How does the system know as far as reviews? Is it only people that have stayed in your place and that have paid and confirmed? Are those the only people that can actually log in and then leave you some reviews?
That is correct.
Because I know that could be one way to kind of game the system. And I know on other sites that's kind of been an issue. And then if you got a bad review, let's say, of course it wouldn't happen to you, Jasper, but let's just pretend hypothetically that you got a bad review. Could you contact the person that left the review to try and get that taken away? Or once they post a review, it's there for good?
Once the review is posted, there's nothing you can do about it. The only thing you can do is you can respond to it. And the way you respond to a bad review, in my opinion, will determine how much damage the review will do to you.
And Jasper, I'm just curious, have you gotten any bad reviews yet? I can't imagine that you have, but maybe like when you first started out, you didn't know this awesome system that you've developed now. Have you gotten any bad reviews? And if so, how did you react?
Well, Taylor, I'm very lucky that and happy that I haven't gotten any bad reviews. But I will say my reviews have changed. In the beginning, I would get positive reviews, but they weren't excellent or outstanding.
Right.
People would write something like, "Oh, the apartment was good and I had a great time." Whereas now, I get guests who write almost complete stories about how amazing their experience was and how much they enjoyed, staying in my place, and they comment that they really enjoyed having me as a host as well. So in that way, the reviews have really changed.
So Jasper, we're right about time. We've hit on a lot of amazing points. What are some of the best ways to follow and connect with you?
The best thing you can do if you want to improve your Airbnb business, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Airbnb, because a lot of the points that we covered are also valid for any type of short stay rental, go to getpaidforyourpad.com. And that's where you'll find the information about my upcoming book and about all the things you can do to get more advice on how to run your Airbnb listing.
I love it. And then Jasper, just curious, I'm on your site now. I know that you have a book launching in 26 days from when we're speaking right now. What are some other things that you're going to have at your website besides your book? It sounded like you're going to have some kind of community too.
That is absolutely correct. Well, first of all, let me mention that I've prepared free bonuses that come with the book. First of all, buyers will get my personal guidebook that they can use as a basis to craft their own. Secondly, I will provide you with access to a private Facebook group. And this is going to be a community of Airbnb hosts that want to improve. And I will be personally giving feedback to people, answering questions, but also the hosts, they can comment on each other's questions and help each other out. So it's really going to be a community of Airbnb hosts that will be adding value to each other and helping each other out. The third thing that will come with the book, I will regularly hold webinars where I'll be answering any questions that hosts might have about how to improve their Airbnb hosting. So those are the free bonuses that will come with my book. But there's more. We're also developing a website, airbnbacademy.com, which will soon go live with much more information, videos, and all sorts of awesome advice and services that you can use to make more money with your Airbnb listing.
Love it, Jasper. You're a rock star. I've never heard anybody delve into Airbnb just like I heard. I hope we can do it again sometime soon. And of course, good luck with your book launch, which is coming in less than a month.
Thank you very much, Taylor. It was a pleasure to be on your show.
I absolutely love the call with Jasper today, and am a huge fan of him niching down and focusing on becoming an expert at one of the world's largest vacation rental websites instead of mass posting on many. You can head on over to our site for complete show notes, easy ways to follow and connect with Jasper, and more information about his fantastic new website and book, Get Paid for Your Pad. And don't forget, if you're looking to travel the globe, staying at unique spaces in over 192 countries, or be like Jasper and become a host renting out your spare bedroom or spare villa, then this episode was just for you. And as a special bonus, you can sign up for $100 in absolutely free credits just for being a listener of this podcast. Head on over to irelpodcast.com/Airbnb and claim your $100 right now.
You have been listening to the IREL Podcast with Taylor White. Be sure to hit up irelpodcast.com for more. That's irelpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.